Hey everyone, this is Leah with Take Up Space Podcast. And before we get into the show, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Divorced AF. They're not your typical podcast. Your hosts, Jay Array and Mai Vinay, offer their perspective on life after divorce, good, bad, and indifferent, with a comedic spin. Jay and Mai tackle taboo topics like dating while divorcing, co parenting, and of course, sex. Episodes drop every Thursday at 12 a.m. Central Time, available on all platforms. F with them. You'll laugh, think, and maybe even learn something. Hit my girls up at Divorce AF and let me know what you think. Let's get to the show. Hello and welcome to another episode of Take Up Space Podcast. I am your host, Leah, and I am with our local professor, Jason. How are you?
Cool. How am I? I'm good. I've been fasting lately every day. So
On
that's
purpose?
yeah, there's an app for it and everything. So it's called Zero. At first I started with 13-hour apps or fasts and now not appetizers.
Okay.
13-hour fast. So I started like 9 o'clock at night, finished at 10 o'clock. And then last night I was like, hey, I wonder how long I can go. So I did an 18-hour. I set it for an 18-hour fast. 2 hours before my 18-hour fast was supposed to start, I changed it to a 16-hour fast so that I could eat because I was hungry at 1 o'clock. But overall, it's going well. So I'm doing well because you care.
I didn't know intermittent fasting was a thing until people were just like, no, you have to do it. I was just like, but I thought that everybody just stopped eating at like
Yeah.
8 or 9, and then you don't eat until breakfast the next morning.
Yeah, no. I'm one of those people that like I will snack basically until 30 minutes before I go to bed if I'm not consciously aware of it. Or like if I'm laying in bed, I'm like, I'm really hungry right now. I'll get up and go get a granola bar or something at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And I realized, hey, you're 33. That's probably not something you want to do going into your.
That's your reasoning?
I'm 33, right?
Yes.
Okay. Wait, you said what? Like,
No, I'm just just is curious because that's your reasoning.
yeah, that and just random stuff that I won't get into that I'm like, hey, maybe fasting would help this. Use your imagination. No, seriously, it was just mostly like, okay, like belching and stuff and acid reflux. And so I'm like, okay, let's see if I can
You're old.
retrain my body. Look, I've been old since I was like 15, if that's the barometer. No, okay, now that I think about it, the reason why I downloaded the app and everything is because I remembered that I didn't eat breakfast like in high school and stuff. And when I would eat breakfast, my stomach, I would have like a lot of issues and stuff. And even back in the old world, when people would go out to work and everything, I wouldn't eat my first meal until maybe like 2 o'clock or so. So I was already fasting. And since we've been on quarantine, that's when I've just been eating like normal people, like 3 times a day. But I've been having more issues with it, more like grouchiness and stuff. And so trying to reset my body to pre-quarantine because, I mean, we're going to go back to regular life. Right?
What? I don't even know what regular is. Like, I'm sitting here like Regina Hall, like I don't know.
I think that regular at this point is basically whatever happens today. Like maybe pick 3 things that happened today, and then we can add that to the list. Like, okay, we woke up. Okay, that's a regular thing.
Took care of hygiene. Okay, cool.
Yeah, brush my teeth. That we could put that on regular, and then maybe took a walk. That's splurging. That's what on the splurge list.
That's on the splurge side.
Yeah.
I don't even know what normal is going to look like. I have to socialize. Like I really need to socialize because it's just me. and 2 dogs.
Yeah.
And we are, I mean, they're good
I
for the
noticed that you're talking to the dogs more than you used to when we're starting our calls. You're more conversational with them than you were when it was just you and Colt, which is before
before quarantine.
things. Yeah, back in the old world, olden days.
Yeah,
So,
because I don't know how to do. I never mastered the one word command.
mhm.
So now it's just like I have full sentences. Hey, what are you doing? Make sure you go eat instead of eat.
I can't blame you. I'll tell Misty, like if I tell her sit or Misty quiet, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that like that. I'm sorry. And I'll actually apologize to the dog.
It's not you. It's
Like, Misty,
me.
can you sit down?
I just have some other stuff that's going on, and I didn't mean to take it out on you, Misty.
She's actually gotten into the habit where like I tell her like, Misty, can you sit down, please? Or if I say sit at first, she won't sit down. She just look at me like, and I say, okay, can you sit down? Okay, Misty, please sit down. And then she'll sit down if I say please. And
Oh, I wish either one of y'all would. I listen. No,
I don't make the rules. I just created them apparently. The same thing, but
yeah, I was gonna say you don't make the rules, but you just created them. Yeah, I am a social butterfly, and it's been rough. It's been rough. It's good, more good days than bad, which is
yeah.
great. I don't think I've had a bad day. There have been some moments,
Hmm.
but
Like moments of frustration,
hmm
like
but
based around like maybe one thing that happened, and then it's like, oh, and just everything kind of wells up, maybe, right?
yeah, once I'm able to get that out
Yeah.
and talk through that, then I'm telling y'all, therapy, therapy. Once I'm able to get that out, talk through it, and learn how to do it, how to talk through it with myself, then it makes it so much easier to
Hmm.
recover a lot quicker as opposed to it taking my whole day.
I've noticed since this all started, since the entire quarantine thing happened, just the importance of actually getting stuff out and verbalizing it. And I've always talked about that with my students. I've talked about that just with my friends when I'm telling them if they're going through issues and stuff.
Mhm.
One of the things is like just get it out somehow. But for me personally, that's not something that I had ever stuck to or adhered to.
Mhm.
But I've noticed more than ever over the past 4 months that if something is happening right then and there, I have to get it out in that moment. Otherwise, it's like there's nowhere for it to hide at this point. Like
Right.
I can't like my compartmentalization department is completely filled up, and it seems like the person that's supposed to be running that department is just took off. I don't know if he got laid off in the quarantine or something, but
When quarantine happened, it was like, all right, we don't have anything else to do.
yeah,
All right,
it's,
we gotta deal
the
with this.
manager is in control of everything at this point, and it's like okay, he's doing all this stuff, but I mean, I guess some new people are being hired. That's just how I deal with my things that are going on. Just visualize them like that.
I have learned during this quarantine to I've learned to be okay with not being okay.
Hmm.
Like I don't have to be happy all the time,
Hmm.
but I've also learned it's okay to have moments where I'm just like I don't want to focus on the negative. I don't want to focus on the negative, but sometimes it's important to see it, to
And to acknowledge
acknowledge,
it, yeah,
so that I can have something to call to.
yeah,
Um, it, Especially like when my anxiety is coming up, and I start to feel anxious or frustrated and just like, where is this coming from? And learning, and I've been able to get to the root of it a lot quicker, which means that have been able to avoid panic attacks
yeah.
generally during this time, and it's gotten a lot better. So,
Yeah.
self care and um, staying connected. That's really what's helped me throughout this time.
Yeah, that acknowledgement thing is huge, actually. Like, even if it's something that you just do not want to unpack in that moment, it's important that you pull it to the forefront and say, okay, I see you. I recognize that you feel this way or that I'm feeling this way at this moment in time. It's valid or whatever. And then that way you're not just left wondering, why am I so freaked out, or why are things ramping, or why do things seem like they're ramping up? That's one thing that I picked up from my therapy sessions is just pull it to the forefront, acknowledge it,
Mhm.
acknowledge that it's that little kid in you or whatever it's trying to get out of you in that moment, acknowledge it, and then move on from it or try to move on from it.
Yeah, so I talked to some people, and everybody process things differently. So I'll
Yeah.
start there. Everybody has their own process, their own way of doing things. Um, some are not as healthy as others. And what I have found is that even though people can recognize that they're anxious or that they're about to have an anxiety attack, they would rather um, kind of like hunker down until the storm passes as opposed to facing it, right? And so when when I hear that, I'm just like, that's but when it comes up again, how do you deal with it? Do you
Mm-hmm.
do you know how to get to the root of it? And I'm just like, therapy. And even if you don't want to do therapy, like give like acknowledge, like, how are you feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Acknowledge what these emotions are. You afraid? And if you're afraid, what is making you afraid?
Right.
What And then a lot of things are like we talked about previously, um, perceived versus actual. A lot of
Right.
it's perceived circumstances. They're not, they haven't happened. The world's a toss up at this point. We have 2020 is the year that somebody decided to start playing Jumanji. So we're living in this.
Yeah,
I
there
just
was a
want to
tsunami
finish.
warning in Alaska last night.
Huh?
I don't know. There was this 7.6 earthquake in Alaska last night,
No.
and so then there was a tsunami warning. I don't think a lot of people realize that happened because it happened at maybe like 1 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock or something like that. Um, just kind of flew under the radar. Sorry.
No. No. I
Sorry.
don't want any of it, but it's I think that acknowledging why, like, your frustration or your anger or whatever it is, so that you can speak directly to that thing, is going to be so much better
Yeah.
in the long run, as opposed to, no, I just gotta deal with this, and then I'm gonna go, I,
Yeah.
because you end up trying to put that energy into something else, but it's all negative energy.
Mhm. And that other thing is still just sitting there, just in the
Hmm.
back, just watching you from across the room, judging you, ruining your party, just messing everything up, right?
Your windows,
Just
listen.
judging you, just sitting there, just looking all in your house. Um, but yeah, the way that I look at it is like, okay, if you're hesitant to acknowledge certain parts about yourself, or if you're hesitant to acknowledge certain things that are making you anxious or whatever, and you're thinking that maybe I should talk about them with somebody else, try recognizing them on your own first. It's not that you have to sit down and have, and I think I've used this phrase before. It's not that you have to have like a come to Jesus meeting at every moment you have some kind of anxious feeling. You don't have to have some ceremonial type thing where you break out all these candles and everything and bring all of your feelings to the forefront. It's just in that moment, pulling it forward, saying, I see you, I recognize you, I acknowledge you, and then moving past it. Because if you're not going to pull your own anxieties and fears to the forefront to try to treat them, I guess, or try to, what's the word? Not treat them, to try to unpack them, I guess. If you're not going to do that yourself, how can you expect other people to unpack those different facets of you? Not therapists. Therapists are there to help you unpack those things. But like your friends, your coworkers, your boyfriends, your girlfriends, your wives, your husbands, how can you expect other people to take those parts of you if you refuse to acknowledge them on any level whatsoever? You know what I mean?
I think that's a good point, because a lot of times we rely on the
Others to say,
kindness of our relationships,
yeah,
of our, of our partners, of our parents, of our siblings, of our friends. We rely on the kindness of their listening ear,
and that safety, right?
right, without, and knowing that, they have some sort of care,
Mm-hmm.
but mm,
A lot of
they,
times I'll hold back when and try to make you feel better about the problem
right.
without really helping you do your own critical work and dig into that problem to really
Yeah.
get at the root cause of it.
Yeah, and I can't say that it's age,
Right.
but where I am in life, I don't, if it's my first time hearing about it, right? And you bring up a problem and say, "Listen, this is a problem, but I don't know how to fix it." I'll listen to you vent the first time.
Mm-hmm.
The second time, you got to come with some solutions,
Mm-hmm.
because, and we're not talking about it really after that, because I don't really want to. I don't want to sit and listen to your problem for years on end,
Mm-hmm.
when all you want to do is talk about it, but you don't want to do anything to fix it.
Right.
So when, and I respect the fact there are people who are not ready. They want to complain because they're either not ready to take that step, they don't want to take that first step, they think it's too much work, they may think that they don't have the wherewithal to be able to handle it, whether it be on their own, in their relationships, or with a therapist. Some people are just not ready to move forward. They
Right.
just want to sit in it. But then that means I'm not the friend for you.
Right. And in those cases, you have to be, those people have to be kind of, they have to be aware of what they want to get out of their interactions with people,
Mm-hmm.
um, and how they present those problems to people. Because sometimes you may just want to vent and you have to preface it with like, okay, no, I talked about this before, but I have to get this off my chest and then get it out or whatever. And then maybe say, okay, you don't have to say anything about it. I don't need your opinion. I just need to get this out just to have that sounding board. Um, but then on the other hand, they have to be aware that who that audience is really and what
Right.
their reaction is going to be no matter what. Because like you said, for you, your initial reaction is, okay, I'm going to give advice and I'm going to try to help you fix this problem the first few times.
No, no.
The
Not the
first
first
time,
few
sorry,
times.
the first
Not
two,
the first few times.
you get one vent and then,
But I'm not, naturally I like to give advice,
right.
but because we've lived life, and we know that not everybody wants advice. Some people just want to vent.
Mm-hmm.
There was, when I was a teacher, and that we were doing like conflict mediation and stuff like that, and people wanted to talk about issues that they were having. There were 3 roles, and the person who the speaker has to give the audience a role. So either the audience is to give advice,
Mm-hmm.
the audience is to take action, or the audience is just to be the sounding board. That's it, somebody to vent to. So when I know somebody's, dealing with some stuff, it's like, okay, you got to tell me, what do you want to just get it out? Just like you said, do you want to just vent about it?
Mm-hmm.
Are you looking for advice to fix it? Or are you just wanting me to take action on it?
Mm-hmm.
You just want me to you want to make me aware of what's going on, or
You
like
want me
what?
to be your cheerleader? I can do
Right.
that. I can do that. We can drag the person if it's a person that you're talking about. We can drag them together. I never liked them anyway.
Right. Don't know him, never met
But
him, don't like him.
yeah,
It's okay.
that's a really good point though. Just to make in any kind of communication, especially starting out early on, just to make the audience aware of what their role is, and even for you as an audience, just again as a if you're writing something, if you're just talking to somebody, if somebody's talking to you, just maybe stop them when they're starting out, like, okay, what is my role here? What do you want to get out? What do you want me to do with this?
Hmm.
Like, of course, don't say it all confrontational, like, what am I supposed to do? Don't say it like
Right.
that.
Don't do
Don't
that.
do that unless you do that and then FaceTime me so I can watch the reaction. Because if you do that to somebody that's in a bad mood, I want to see how it's gonna go.
I don't want to talk to you anyway. Okay, I just wanted to know what my role was. Okay, thanks.
Like somebody just vents about their boss like for 15 minutes, like, okay, what am I supposed to do about it?
Right.
Really? Like that? But yeah, I noticed that, like, I know early on, starting out, like, for me, when I'm talking about work stuff with school and everything, um, you guys, I think you guys have a pretty good handle, at least now, when my talks, when my ventings about my students
Hmm.
are about like things that I want advice on, or what would you guys expect from a professor in this case? Because for me, sometimes it's hard to step back into that teacher role, or sorry, into that student role, since I've been teaching and had to take on that so much. I'd come back to you guys sometimes, like, okay, what would be a good reaction to this? So you guys can kind of read that when I'm just venting about my job, or venting about how classes are being doled out, or venting about a student, versus if I need actual like guidance and stuff.
Right.
But I think that's because we've been friends for what, 10
10.
years?
Yeah.
And even when I bring up like it always hits a point in the semester every year, and you know where I'm going with this. Every year it's a point in the semester where I say something, I go on something about teaching in general, and then you're like, yeah, I was wondering when we get here, because you say this every year that you won't do this
Every semester, like what's happening?
every semester, every
What's
semester.
happening?
And even that, just that little nudge, like, okay, you're repeating yourself, you're falling into that loop. And that's one thing that came up in my therapy sessions last week, that my therapist, like when he's in his sessions with some clients, when he's in there with like a mother and child or something, or a parent and a child,
Hmm.
and they're going back and forth with each other, he'll just jump in and say, okay, you guys are looping right now. You guys are in a loop. And so you interrupt that loop for me. Um, but it's one of those things where it's like, you saying that reminds me, like, okay, what's different about the last time that I talked about this? And I think the last time we talked about it, what was different is that I had determined that a lot of my um, hesitancies or problems with teaching kind of came down to a regional thing, and
Hmm.
that I'm very environmentally driven in where I am.
Yes.
So I'm realizing that maybe I want to teach, but maybe it's just not in this region. So yeah, thanks for that. See, with your little nudges and your loop breaking, you nudged me that way.
Because some people, and I know it's because we've been friends for a while,
Yeah,
but we also have an expectation that we're all progressing forward. No
yeah.
matter if we're taking small steps or leaps, we're all progressing forward.
And I made
So
that known that one with you, that one of my problems that I deal with in general is that I don't like to be still. Like, I don't like to
right.
be and stagnant, which
But
is
I
why
think
summers are hard for me.
if I'm not mistaken, we're both on that path. I don't know so much if Jordan is, but I know that's why I move because
Mhm.
I
Like,
can be still.
like you're literally like, you need constant motion. Like, you have
Yes.
to see that kind of stuff. For me, it's more so. It can be artistically. It could be mentally, just like getting my emotional state progressing forward and stuff. And
Mhm.
that's why, like, I'm always like, okay, I just fixed this problem. How can I fix this problem? Or how can I chip away at this? And always thinking like, okay, what is the next move? And so like, even at this point, I have like maybe like the next 6 years sort of planned out. Haven't talked about it much with anybody, but I have it planned out. And I'm like, okay, this is what I need to be doing. Because at least if I have something I'm moving towards, I can say that I'm not stagnant and that I'm not stuck at any moment.
I think that's a big thing too. Um, I I want to continue progressing. I want to continue
Yeah.
moving forward. I want to continue um, really working toward being successful in whatever aspect I am in life.
Have we
But
talked about defining success before?
I don't I don't think so.
No, that was in one of my classes. We have to talk about that at some point because that's a theme that you go back to a lot.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of accusatory, but that's the thing that you go back to a
Me
lot.
too, because it's so different for everybody.
Yeah,
And
it's different for everyone.
right. Some people are good with like working the same job for 30 years, living in the same apartment, having their bills paid and being able to afford the life that they want. Other people, want to live the Kardashian lifestyle. Other people want to, be able to travel and live around. Success looks different to everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that noting that is very, very important. But I think the reason why I don't like when you're in a loop, it's hard to break it.
Yeah.
But
Without somebody there to constantly remind you
exactly
that you're in there.
having that person on the outside, just like, so what are you doing?
I've
What
noticed
is?
that Jordan is that person for you.
Yes, he is. He
Like,
very much is
like
because
you'll
he'll.
bring up moving and he'll be like, remember, this is where you hit that point in Texas. Oh, this is Texas all over again. Oh, this is
Is
Virginia
this,
all
oh,
over.
is this
And
Virginia? Is this what we're doing? Is this what's going on? Yeah, he very much is,
yeah,
and I definitely appreciate him for it because there have been moments where I'm just like, I think I'm at that, and he just like before I can even get it out, the same thing, just like, so
so
what
what's
apartments are
really
you
going
looking at? What's happening? And I'm just like, it's time to go. It's time to go.
I noticed that Jordan is the one that will tell you that you're in a loop or whatever, and then I'll kind of nudge you like, okay, what's going on? What are you supposed to be doing, or what are you running from? What are you trying to get away from? What happened? And just say what happened, and make
Just
you tell
don't
me.
have it. I'm just like with them over there. I don't like it here. I hate it here. I
It's the
want to
guy across the hall.
go. Oh my gosh, that was a whole thing.
Hope he hears it. No, I'm just joking. Um,
He wouldn't be anywhere near me. But
I'm
it's
just
just
gonna say we're 30 minutes into this. I don't think we're gonna get to the plan topic. I think you let go of that.
I let go of that about minute 10. I was
I
like,
really,
no, it's gonna be the topic now.
and I'm okay with that. I keep thinking. At first, I was like, "Oh yeah, checklist." When we're talking about the checklist, what is checklist for normalcy? Then we'll get to whatever that topic was. I won't give it away because I don't want to spoil anybody.
Eventually, this is week 3 of trying to get at it, but
This is
eventually,
the third week.
eventually. But I think that this is just as important because so many people get stuck um in not knowing how to.
Check in with yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to. It's so important. And I know we talked about that previously on another episode, but the ability to know that even if it's just surface and it's just like I know that I'm upset.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that you're upset, knowing that before you even try to backtrack and figure out where it happened, where it came from, things like that, knowing that you're upset or knowing that you're worried or that you're fearful or that I'm not confident in this next thing, knowing those things can help propel you forward more than um more than shutting down
Yeah.
or more than just venting to a rando who doesn't really care.
Yeah.
But acknowledging who that is, and then being able to have people you trust
Mm-hmm.
to go to say, listen, so this is a thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not really sure how to get around it, how to fix it, or what's going on, but it's really important, and that's why, like, I'm grateful that I have the relationships to kind of make sure that the loop doesn't get completely closed. I'm able to pull myself out of it, um, with with the prompting and the questions and all that.
It's like a
And
roundabout, and then somebody has to come in and close off, like
right,
put a block
detour. Where
in
are we
that.
going?
Like,
We're going the other
no,
way.
turn left or turn left, turn right, whatever.
Yeah,
Um, I
it
think,
has to be, because when you get stuck in a loop and you don't know how to check in with yourself, it's like this. It goes from a loop to a downward spiral,
yeah,
because it feels like there's external pressure. Everything is internal, but it feels like
mhm,
there's external pressure that is perceived to be bigger than what it is.
yeah,
And a lot of times um it's hard for me to express that to a person that's in it,
mhm,
but I'm just like, listen, I have been there. I know it's hard to hear me right now. I know it's hard to hear me right now, but please try and listen.
yeah,
It is rough, but I need you to talk. I need you to get it out. You got to write, you got to sing, you got to do art, something, get it out.
yeah.
Then we can point to it and say, this is the thing.
This did it. This is what happened.
Yes, like, we have to be able to point to it. We have to be able to call it out, because if we're just in the dark and hoping for the best,
Mhm.
we're always going to be fighting a losing battle.
Yep.
You gotta
One
be able to call those things out, because
Yeah.
otherwise it's no, it's not. You always feel like you're fighting by yourself, and you always feel
Yeah.
like you keep telling yourself that lie. Nobody else knows what's going on. Nobody knows what this feels like. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen, all that stuff.
Nobody
And
understands me.
yeah, and that is, if nothing else, I know that because of the support that we all give each other, that it's not that it's a very natural thing to go through, but you have to be able to be vulnerable enough to say, hey, I was feeling like this,
Mhm.
or I was going through that.
And it's also, you mentioned earlier, checking in with yourself. And it's weird because it doesn't feel natural because we aren't encouraged to, especially men. Uh, I'll say, especially from my experience as a man, we are not really encouraged by society. And I can't even say by my mom, because my mom still just constantly like, okay, why are you anxious? And she'll constantly check in on us and make us do that self-assessment.
Mhm.
But then external factors can also play into that, where it kind of counters however you're raised or whatever way you're raised. But
Yeah.
it kind of, sometimes it can feel unnatural to check in with yourself, because it's like it feels selfish, and there's a lot of stuff. I know I talk about society is very, I think I talked about this before, or we will talk about it at some point, how everything is like very um, centered on the individual getting whatever they want out of a situation, and just getting whatever they want out of the world in general, and just being completely self-motivated. But in the same token, we aren't really encouraged to be selfish emotionally, and selfish when it comes to
True.
taking time to examine ourselves and really unpack ourselves, because then people are labeled as vain or something, or narcissistic, which there is a line to tread where you can try kind of start gassing yourself up too much, or you can get preoccupied with it. But it's also important to find that balance and make sure that you tap into yourself, so that you know yourself, and so that you can know when you are not well in yourself.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's true. because even as a woman, I do see like the society has this idea of men to put some dirt on it and walk it off.
Mhm.
Whatever it is, put some dirt on it, walk it off. And without saying like, yo, but it's so crazy to me now that I'm older and I'm having conversations with men um who are just like, you know what, I'm secure enough in myself to go to therapy to talk about what happened and blah blah blah. When I hear men who are still heartbroken over that girl who did them dirty in the 5th grade,
Mhm.
I am just, you never dealt, but then it's like, how could they ever deal with it?
Yeah, because they would never walk through, right? It's like, you okay? You'll get another one, right?
Right. It's just like, why now I know why. And it's like, well, then it goes into these behaviors are developed.
Yeah,
And it's, and we, so when you don't unpack these things, they develop these behaviors that are sometimes negative, and it's just to cover the surface of it. Well, why do you do this? I don't really know.
it's like like a fungus. Like
Yeah.
like one spore is planted in the house at 5 years old, and then if that spore isn't taken care of, if it's just painted over,
Mm-hmm.
then it's not the right paint. It's not the anti-mold paint, right? Not the anti-mildew paint. It's just gonna fester and just gonna keep popping up. It's gonna pop up when they're 10. It's gonna pop up when they're 15. Pop up when they're 20. But you just keep painting over it, and eventually it's gonna be like this entire bathroom has been painted over 10 times and it's just moldy all over.
Yeah.
And that's a very weird analogy, but I'm gonna stick with it because I like it and I think it works.
It's pretty accurate because sometimes you have to destroy the stuff that you have built up to cover it. You have to take all that stuff down, take all that stuff away to get to the heart of it. What really happened? Why are you,
Like, where does this going back to?
yeah,
Why are you treating people with disrespect as an adult? What does that go back to? What did you see when you were 5 years old? What did you learn what is the learned behavior that's there that is reinforcing that, okay, I may not know this is right, but this is all that or may know that this is not right, but this is all that I know. So you
mm,
have to be willing, in that same sense, that you have to be willing to step back and examine yourself and self reflect and check in on yourself. You
yes,
have to be ready to not like what you see and to recognize that there should be, or that you would benefit from
yes,
a few alterations.
just a few,
A few,
just a few.
nothing huge. Just
Yeah.
a kitchen remodel. Well, I keep going back to houses. I haven't watched HGTV at all during the pandemic, so I don't even know why I'm focused on.
I don't think I watched. I'm trying to think if I've seen any TV.
I haven't because I don't want people. I mean, I haven't watched HGTV because I don't want to watch people going to look at houses, like, and walking around neighborhoods without masks when I don't have that luxury at this point.
Oh, this person is a paper napkin folder, and I'm a substitute teacher. Our budget
Our
is
budget is
$1 billion.
hi. I dismantle broken irons.
Oh
Um, and
gosh.
I am an arborist.
Yeah.
Our budget is $3 million in downtown Austin.
Right. And I just, how? I don't even.
It's not realistic.
It's
Do you
not.
do you think that the people on House Hunters are just paid actors at this point, and that they have like a
They put
casting
a whole
department?
article out. It is because what they do is they buy the house already, and then they have to get 2 other people to clear out their homes so they can go into their homes and say, "Oh, well, we found 3 homes that are
Yeah,
kind
and then we have to
of,
pick, right?
yeah," and then you end up picking your house. I
So
guess.
yeah, see, that's not what I was getting at. I meant, like, do you think that House Hunters is literally a farce at this point, where it's like almost like Lifetime movie where everything is fabricated. Like they're not even really buying a house.
Yeah,
they're not even really married.
Yeah, two random people. Hey, you two. I believe you two are a couple. Never
No, I
saw
need
a man a day in my life.
They need to start showing us marriage certificates, birth certificates for the babies.
Approval from the bank that
I
you're
want to see the
really
deed.
doing this.
I want to see the deed when the deal has closed.
Mm,
I want to see it all.
no, I can't. No.
Sorry, I just got off topic with that.
No.
But yeah, check in on yourself. Really, that's the homework, right?
Is that how we circle back?
I can't even think of a loop to bring it back. But see, we interrupted that loop of us talking about check in on yourself. It was a good loop. That one was a good loop.
No, it's none of this is working. None of this is working. But thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of
This is the check-in episode, right?
Huh?
This is the check-in episode, right? We're just checking in on each other.
Just check in with yourself. Check in with your family, but check in with yourself first, because that's what's important, especially during this time. I hope that you're staying safe. I hope that you are staying healthy and wearing a mask.
Please.
I don't care what anybody else says. Cover your face for the sake of covering your face.
Like, even if you don't think that you're going to infect anybody or anything, protect yourself. You never know what's floating around. There could be just... Look, when I wear a mask, when I go outside, I don't get allergy attacks. So wear a mask for that, so you don't have to deal with allergies.
Yeah.
That should be enough.
Just that's all you gotta do. That's all you have to do. And if you don't want to wear a mask, stay home.
Just stay in the house.
Just
you pay the rent.
Stay home.
You pay your mortgage.
Listen.
You got all your nice stuff there.
Yes. Build the life you want, so that way you don't have to leave.
Yeah. Keep your kids there too if you don't want to get them vaccinated. That's fine.
That's a whole different episode. Because I don't want to get into that. Oh my gosh, I have so much. Wear a mask. But thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you for being here, Jason. You can find Jason at JJ_Newberry on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow us at Take Up Space Pod. That's Take Up Space POD, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Make sure to like us on YouTube as well. All right, we are out of here. We will see you next Tuesday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you like, share, subscribe with you. Make sure you share with a family member or friend who actually needs to be checked in with. Just be like, hey, I have a podcast for you to listen to. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Later.